In this demonstration, we're going to configure a DHCP server. DHCP stands for Dynamic Host Configuration Protocol. It's a client-server protocol that automatically provides a host with its IP address and other information like the subnet mask, DNS, and default gateway. The server I'm working on is a domain controller, has Active Directory installed, and has been configured as a DNS server. Your network may be configured differently than the one I'm using. Before we get started, there are a few things we've done to this server. The first thing is that this server has been assigned a static IP address. As we've learned previously, there are two ways to get an IP address from a DHCP server, statically or dynamically. A DHCP server can't assign itself a valid IP address. The second thing we need to find out is what our subnet mask, default gateway, and DNS servers are. In our case, our DNS server is also this server, so that's what we'll use. Let's take a look at that first to confirm and document that information. The fastest way to do this is to bring up a command prompt and type ipconfig/all. Let's go to the search box and type in cmd to bring up the command prompt. Once the command line interface comes up, we'll type ipconfig/all. We can now see how this server's IP information is configured. We're ready to start installing DHCP on this server. To do this, we have to add the DHCP role. We need to do this from Server Manager. If Server Manager isn't open, you can go to the search box, type in Server Manager, and then open it from the search results. Now that we have Server Manager open, we'll click on Add Roles and Features to bring up the Add Roles and Features wizard. Click on Next to continue. We'll do a role-based or feature-based installation. Go ahead and click on Next. We'll make sure our server is selected down here in the list. There's only one server on the network, so it's the only one we can pick. Click Next, and we'll come down here and select DHCP to add the DHCP role. Click the Add Features button to add DHCP features to support the DHCP role onto the server. Our server is telling us that we need some additional features, so we'll accept these and continue. Click Next again, and then click Install. We'll just wait a minute while the DHCP server role is installed. Okay, the installation of the role is complete, but it's not configured yet. The next thing we need to do is actually click on this option right here, Complete DHCP Configuration. We have to authorize this DHCP server because of a problem with rogue DHCP servers. What could happen is somebody could either maliciously or accidentally set up a DHCP server, like we're doing right now, and then connect it to a production network. It could start handing out IP addresses to the various clients on the network, and it's not supposed to do that. This step will launch the post-install wizard. We'll hit Next. We have to specify which domain and the user credentials that will be used to authorize this DHCP server. We'll go ahead and click Commit, and we'll click Close. I want to confirm that my DHCP service is running. To do this, I'm going to go up to Tools, go down to DHCP Server, and confirm that it's running and it's set to start automatically. Okay, we're good to go. The DHCP service is now available on this server, but it hasn't been configured. It can't do much of anything because we haven't told it what exactly we want it to do. Now, let's go ahead and fix that. Let's go over to Tools and let's go to DHCP and bring up the DHCP Management Console. Here's our DHCP server. We're going to be working with IPv4. Notice over here under IPv4 that we don't have any scopes, so we don't have any addresses to hand out. First, we need to define a scope. These scopes will say, these are the IP addresses that you can hand out, these are the IP addresses you can't hand out, and these are the options you can deliver with your IP addresses. Let's right-click on IPv4 and click on New Scope. The New Scope wizard appears. Go ahead and click Next. We need to give the scope a name. Let's call it Network A and put internal for the description. Click Next. We have to specify the IP addresses that this DHCP server will hand out. Let's hand out a range from 192.168.254.1 to 192.168.254.199. We'll use the default subnet mask of 255.255.255.0. Click Next. Notice we've got a little problem. We're handing out addresses between 192.168.254.1 and 192.168.254.199. We've got other devices on that subnet that are statically assigned an IP address. If that's the case, you can't hand those addresses out via DHCP. Otherwise, you're going to get an IP address conflict. For example, notice we have 192.168.254.1 assigned to this interface. We can't hand that IP address out via DHCP because that's the address of this server. Let's also assume we have a few other devices with static IP addresses between 192.168.254.1 and 254.10. Let's enter 192.168.254.1 to 254.10. We'll add that exclusion. That will block those addresses, and so they aren't handed out via DHCP. A better way of solving this problem would have been to start the range of IP addresses that our DHCP server would hand out from 192.168.254.11 and go up to 254.199, but I wanted to show you how to create an exclusion. Now we can specify the lease duration. You can specify how long DHCP clients are allowed to keep an IP address from the DHCP server before they either have to renew it or give it up. We're going to leave it set to the default of 8 days. Be aware that if you decrease the lease time, it does increase network traffic a little bit because clients will have to continually renew their IP addresses. But decreasing the lease time also makes it so that you can use your addresses more efficiently. We'll just leave it at the default for our purposes. Click Next. We need to specify whether or not we want to configure DHCP options. We do want to, but we're not going to do it right now. So I'm going to turn this option to No, and we'll configure these later. And we're done. I'll click Finish, and now we have a scope defined. In addition, we have an option down here to define reservations. Reservations are IP addresses that have to be assigned to a specific host in the network every single time. They can't be assigned to anybody else. These reservations are based on the MAC address of the host. We can come over here, right-click, and select New Reservation. We can specify an IP address that we want to always be assigned to the same host, say 192.168.254.11. If we did that, we would then come down here and enter in the MAC address of the host that will always get this IP address. That way, the next time that host comes up, this IP address would be assigned. Why would we do this? Let's say we have an employee who takes their notebook computer home every night and works from home, but we want that employee's notebook computer to have a specific IP address. We can't assign that notebook with a static IP because it wouldn't be able to communicate with the employee's home network. So we create a reservation so that employee gets the same IP address every time. This also ensures the employee is guaranteed a connection if we were to run out of IP address leases. We're not actually going to configure reservations today, so we'll click Close. Notice that there's also an option for scope options. Scope options are additional information that can be delivered via DHCP to the DHCP clients. By default, if we don't configure these, all we're going to give our clients is an IP address and a subnet mask, and that's not good. They also need DNS information to resolve domain names. Let's go ahead and create options that will deliver those along with the IP address and subnet mask. First, we want to set our default gateway. I'll put in that gateway information that I found earlier from when we did an IP config on our server. That gateway was 192.168.254.254. We'll add it, and then we need to configure our DNS server as well. As you may recall, I have this server configured as a DNS server, so we need to add it too. 192.168.254.1. And then we'll add it. Now, whenever the clients receive an IP address from this DHCP server, they will also receive this additional information. All right, we're almost ready to go. However, notice here under the scope, we have a red down arrow. That means the scope isn't activated yet. It's all defined, it's all ready to go, but the DHCP server isn't using it to hand out IP addressing information. We need to activate it. I'll select it, right-click, and select Activate. Okay, I think we're ready to go. The DHCP is running and the scope is defined. The next step is to test it on a client and see if we successfully receive an IP address and configuration. Let's go to our Windows 10 computer. This workstation has been set to obtain an IP address automatically from a DHCP server. I've opened a command line interface and I'm going to do an ipconfig/release to release any IP address that I may have. Now I'm going to do an ipconfig/renew. You'll notice that right away, our workstation went out and grabbed the first IP address in the scope that we configured to hand out. Remember that we excluded 192.168.1 through 10 for statically assigned hosts. That's it for this demonstration. In this demo, we learned how to gather the required information to install DHCP. We learned how to install the DHCP role. We learned how to create a DHCP scope, how to create IP exclusions, how to reserve IP addresses, and finally, how to configure DHCP scope options.